Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's August, I believe it's August 7th. What are you, August 7th? I'm sorry. Couldn't remember if it was the 8th or 7th or the 8th, but today is August 7th. And just a quick look at our daily chart. You can see we traded much higher today, but we turned down right off that trend line. We tested it. It acted as resistance and turned down. We closed almost on the low. So it turned out to be a very bearish down day. We actually got a new close lower than the close for Monday. So at this point, it's hard to know exactly. We may be just going to chop sideways a little bit here, get some consolidation, and then it may rally, or we may continue to sell off. If we get follow through selling tomorrow, this thing could sell on off. So we're in very, very oversold territory. So the path of least resistance is probably going to be up at this point, but that doesn't mean we're going higher yet. So just we'll just have to wait and see what tomorrow brings. I really thought we were going to rally on out of here and rally up today and close higher, but it didn't happen. That rally fizzled out, and prices turned lower, and the selling returned, and as you can see, we closed lower here. So that's what it looks like on the daily chart. Looks very similar on the 2000 tick chart, but let's flip over there and take a look. And here it is. This is one of those days where, um, the trend channels, they just kind of, we start new ones each time. After one plays out, you get a little correction, another one comes in, get a little correction, and then another one comes in. It's kind of like that on the way up and that way on the way down. And so at first the trend was pretty strong, and then the trend was pretty weak. So you can see here that on a retest of this spike in channel here, we couldn't even make a new high. That's not a good sign. And so once we started going lower, this would have been my first target, this gap here, because this is where we opened and this is where we closed yesterday. So you would expect to at least feel that gap. And you can see it looked like we were going to probably find support and reverse there, but of course it's thinner during the after hours, and they took it on down lower. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. If we get more follow through selling, this thing we might get a nice a bigger correction than what we're expecting here. So I thought we were about to recover all of the Monday sell off, but that doesn't seem to be the case at this point. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. But let's zoom in here, go through the trades, and kind of wrap this down. And of course, it was all uphill at first, then it was all downhill after that. Now, I'm going to tell you, people continue to send me their charts trying to buy lows or trying to sell highs, and they can't figure out why they get a loser. Well, even if you've got the right idea, your timing has to be perfect. And so if you're not a skilled chart reader that's consistently winning and is able to already pick tops and bottoms pretty consistently, don't do it, because you're just going to cause yourself heartache and pain, especially on when the market's crazy like it is now. Because if you get it wrong, it can go pretty fast in the other direction, and you could end up getting some slippage and take a bigger loss than you're expecting. Same thing to the upside. So just don't do it. Look, once you get a break of this of a channel, and then let's say we did make a new high here, don't start trying to go short again unless you get a confirmed trend in the other direction. Even here, I didn't see any shorts I liked. I was still thinking, we're going to turn back higher and try to make a retest, and of course we did. And so you start buying again, but you don't start selling until you get a confirmed trend line in the other direction. Don't try selling all this stuff, because you might get it wrong. But if you wait till you get a confirmed trend, then it's almost a sure thing. So just sit tight. That's the difference between an average trader and a really good trader is the really good traders know to sit tight and just wait on the sure things. They don't try picking tops. They don't try picking bottoms. If they do take a short off a high or short off a low, they know what they're doing. They're not guessing at it. So just be aware of that and just trade smartly and don't make that mistake of trying to pick tops and bottoms, because most of you are going to lose if you do. Even good traders have a hard time with it because you can be right, but it's all about timing. And you can be a little bit early and you'll get burned. So just don't do it. But anyway, let's get to the trades. I'm going to zoom in here a little more. There's a lot of volume and price action here. So 7 o'clock came just as we've already had this one up, had a break, new high, and then it looks like we're going to start working down. But we kick quickly. 7 o'clock comes just as we're bottoming out here. We kind of make this double bottom. It's tempting to want to go long there, but just sit and wait. You want to make sure you got a confirmed trend. Well, we confirmed this trend here, and you actually had a second entry, but there's no setup. There's actually two legs back. It looks more sideways, like a little drop out of congestion, but you still don't get a setup. But then suddenly, after confirming the trend line, you get a high or low with a pretty decent signal bar. That's a pretty good place to go long. And you can see it takes off there. That's because the smart traders are waiting on the sure, something they feel is a sure thing, and there it is. We actually come back and get a first entry, second entry here, but I just don't like entering there. We never made a new low on this little move back. We're not back to the trend line. So I didn't like that one. It takes off again, and then we're working sideways. You get this little failed drop. Now, as I tell you every time, you're always better off to wait on a high or low. So this one's a little risky. It works. It's a failed break out of that when prices are wanting to go higher in an uptrend. So if you want to be a little aggressive, that's where you do it. You actually come back here and get another second entry, and it's right off of this support again, but the signal bar is no good. And what you really do is you just move up here and you make a higher range is what's happening. So if that had been a good signal bar, that would have been a nice trade. And you see how quickly it shoots up, and then you're just kind of chopping around. And again, I don't really think you should be looking for shorts here. I mean, we're obviously climbing higher. Even though we're going sideways, the bias is still up. Back out and look at it. Look at the EMA pointing up. Stay with the trend. There's only one here that possibility, and well, that's not even, this is the signal bar, but so you can't take that one either. So there's just no setups here, even if you wanted to go short. So just don't try it. But you easily get a triple test right here, and we've been going up, down. So there's a quick, and it may take off again, and boom, there it goes. There's a high or low here, a little breakout pullback. You got to stay away from those. Just don't take those. You need to see it test that a few times before you take it, but you just have to kind of watch that one go. And then we turn down here, and you do get a second entry long here, but the signal bar, and it is right off the key entry point, but the signal bar is an inside bar, and we really do not have a close outside this channel yet, so it's a little iffy. You can't really take that one. Runs up here and then turns back down, and it bounces again. This time you get a decent signal bar, but again, it hasn't closed outside, but this trend line's been holding all day, so maybe you take this trade. I marked it green. It's a little aggressive, but it is a second entry at the key entry point in an uptrend. And if you take it, it works easily, takes very little heat. Now, something else I keep getting asked is, the signal bars are getting bigger on volatile days. Like that one's 13 ticks. That one's 11. It's not too bad, but they're bigger than what we'd like to see is what we like to be able to do is get in, if we're going to scalp, is to get in with an 8 tick stop. And so if the bars are too big, you've got a couple of options. You can either skip the trade, you can drop a limit order in a few ticks back to get inside that 8 tick, so that your stop always has to go 1 tick below the signal bar or 1 tick above. There's no There's no work around that. So sometimes you let it break higher and drop a limit order, and you drop it far enough back that you can get in the trade with an 8-tick stop. Now you may not get triggered, but it's just another option you can try without having to take these huge stops. The other option is, if it takes 10 stops, then go for 10 ticks. I don't like to do that personally because your win percentage will drop, and you may take more losses that way. So, because a lot of these trades are designed to get a scalp and nothing more. And a trend like this off a key entry point, most of the times you're going to get more than a scalp. And you can see here, this thing moved basically 3.5 points, 3.25. So you could have gone for 2 ticks here, easily got it, even though it's still turned down. So those are just some options you can try. So either skip the trade, fix your profit to equal your stop, the extra tick. So if 8 ticks is our maximum stop is what we like, and suddenly you've got a stop that's 10 ticks or 12 ticks, take that extra 2 or 4 ticks or whatever it is above 8 and add it to your profit and try to add on. So you kind of reduce your risk reward there. Now again, don't do it in a tight range like this where you don't have room to do that, to get that extra tick, because it might hit right there and turn back down again. Here it went higher, but in a lot of cases it'll touch and turn back down and you get stopped out. So you got to be smart about it. So you'd want to do it on a trending market, or if you're going to try to get extra ticks in a trending market where off a key entry point. So just keep that in mind. If this fails and turns down, it is a failed second entry long, but I don't know if you want to go short there. It's another possibility. It's probably going to trap people, and you can see that it did. Boom. They all have to exit. We get another second entry short here, but I don't like that signal bar. It's close. I mean, you can see the low, first entry, second entry, so it's another possibility. We'll mark it green. The reason I didn't really like it is we are at the EMA, so that's a minor key entry point, but at this point it looked like it was the lower key entry point, and you would expect it to possibly go back to the higher since it went all the way through the EMA, but it's a downtrend now, and it may not. But we'd been in such a strong uptrend, and we hadn't made a new high yet. I was a little wary of going short there, and so I'll mark it green, but I'm not crazy about it. And of course you get 2 legs down here, and you get a second entry long, and this is what I'm talking about, trying to pick bottoms. You got to be careful with these. You need to know what you're doing, but you can clearly see the channel. You get a break, a new low. It's clearly 2 legs down. You're a mile away from the EMA. Doesn't mean it's going back still, so you better be sure you read, but I like that one. I still marked it green because you're counter trend trading. And then look what happens. It tries to go short 2 more times, so you get a failure there. Now, normally I'd say this is not a spot you want to take a failure. It needs to be on the other side of the EMA. But since you're so far away from the EMA, with a failure, there's a good chance it's going to at least go back to the EMA. So if you got room, maybe you take it. Again, it's a green trade. It's a little aggressive, but it's one of those you might take. And then we're just chopping sideways. I don't see any reason to go short here. It's a double top. It's not that far away from the EMA. It looks sideways. I just sit tight. And then finally you get a triple test here, and you've been going back and forth, so I like that one. Now again, it doesn't go all the way, but it comes back and it makes a higher low. And this actually breaks lower and then turns up. You can't trade that on the engulfing bar, but when it closes, if you still got room to get out, you might go long right there, because we're expecting prices to come back to the other side. And we might go all the way back to make a new high, because we're still expecting a possible retest of the high over here. So I like that one. I did make it green because it's looking a little congested, and this one didn't really go all the way to the top. This one probably will. And there is a new high here, so it's a second entry. We're not looking for second entries in that sideways stuff. Look how flat that EMA is. So it's a little aggressive there. Because it's moved so far. It's such a big bar, really. That's the main reason it's a little aggressive. It's 21 ticks. So, it's a very large bar. So this is one you might let it break higher and drop a limit order, and you can see you could have gotten in a little further back and maybe saved some of those points and then tried to get an equal move on it. But anyway, it takes off, and then we're just chopping sideways again. But notice we get a break, first entry, come back, and so there's a second entry long after a break and new low. I like that, a nice signal bar. It comes back, makes a double bottom, and gives you another chance to enter. I like entering there too. And so you could have got two easy scalps right there. You actually get a triple test here. I didn't mark this one because it made a new low. But you could still say, okay, I want to be aggressive. It's a triple test. It's a good chance it may work, but it's not a sure thing. So then we get a double top. We get a lower high here, but no setup really. And there's just nothing else to trade. And then you're working sideways again here. I didn't color this one for some reason. And the color doesn't mean anything other than just makes it easier to see. I usually make these sideways things green or pink, if they're a little congestion or ranges. And so here we are, we're working sideways again. I don't really see anything up or down. Now this did make a break higher and turn down all in one bar, and that is solid green, so that's one you might consider on an engulfing bar. It's just so close to the low and such a big bar. You can see there's just enough room to get out there, but that, you're risking 20 something ticks, and so I just didn't mark it. Just wait and see if you get something better. And of course it bounces down here and it runs back up and it confirms this trend line. That's your third touch. And you might say, okay, maybe that's only a second touch. And then you get your third touch here. So it confirms it here for sure. Now there is a second entry short right there, but the signal bar is no good. And you haven't had a break and new high yet. But you get your break, new high, I'm talking about on this green channel here. And you get a nice signal bar right at the key entry point. Now it's definitely been confirmed. And you look at this bar, it's only 11 ticks. So for a volatile day, it's not too big. You can't really, if you try to get get in within 8 ticks, you're not going to get in this one. But look at it take off. Boom. It takes a second. I say look at it take off. You wouldn't have got anything but a run. You wouldn't have got a runner on this one most likely, because it does come back here, and unfortunately it doesn't give you a lower high to enter on. But it moves on down. You get a close outside. This channel's working up to your close outside. Then you get a break and a new high. I like going short there. It's not a second entry, but this is played out. Right at the EMA, you get a break and new high and a strong downtrend. We haven't reached the low yet. We just came off the highs, so there's a good chance we're still going lower. I'd prefer it to be off this trend line, but this has been a strong enough downtrend that I'm going to say, hey, I'm going with it. Then we correct again. We're moving back. You get a break, move to a new high. This one was tempting. I didn't mark it because we got back inside that little channel there, but we clearly have a break and a couple of swings up. The problem is you're just guessing here. It's a possibility you could mark it green, but I'd rather wait for a lower high, and we just don't get one. And by the time you get down here, you got all that support. You don't want to go short. Off it goes again. You got a new channel working lower. You get a close outside, and you get a lower high here. You get a close on this green one. You get a close outside. You don't get a new high, but this thing's pretty bearish, and you're expecting a retest to the low here. You do have a break and a new low. So much lower than this, unless you get a new trend, you probably want to be careful about going short. But I like that one there. Just to watch it, it's probably going to run down. I mean, maybe you got a close outside there, but I don't think you do. I think that's originally I had it more like that. And so you don't have a close outside there. If it is, it's not convincing. So you're expecting a retest of the low here. And so I like that lower high. If you got a good signal bar here on the second entry, I'd probably say take it too, because a lot of times you're going to get two legs down. We just get another trend working down, close outside, and move to a new low. This time it finally touches the low. It actually overshoots it, in my opinion, and we rock it out of there. Now I'm not going to try to buy a low in this strong a downtrend. Look at that downtrend. Don't try to pick no bottoms here. Don't make that mistake. This is not a range day where you can try to pick bottoms or tops. This is a trend, and it's a strong downtrend. And this is your first break of this channel, so there's no shorts. You might have looked at that as a lower high, but it just doesn't. It just looks real neutral, the bars. If it was bearish, I might say take that. But it's not, and you end up getting another couple of moves up, and that's what I'm talking about. That looks really good, and it would have worked, but sometimes this won't work, and it's because you're early, and you would have been early here because this market's not through correcting yet. And so that's the problem. Once you've had a break of the trend line, and you're waiting to go back with the trend, your timing could be off. You know you want to try to go short here, most likely, but your timing has to be good. So you want a good setup. And I didn't like that one just because it's not really a great signal bar. Still would have worked. And then by the time you get your two swings up, you don't have a decent signal bar, and it just takes off again. So it's kind of unfortunate, but that's the way it works. And sometimes you just have to be patient and not take these trades. You can see we have to go a good bit here. I mean, we took this trade right before noon, and here we are. It's already 1 o'clock, and we still hadn't had another setup yet. And we're still going down relatively strongly, but you're just not getting any setups. And that's what separates an average trader from a great trader, is being patient. And you can see here, and finally we come up short here from the low, and we get a break. And there is a second entry there. That to me looks just like one leg up. So I didn't treat that as a second entry. It's not a great signal bar either, so I don't think you can enter there. And notice you get a triple bounce here, and you do make a new low, but I still wouldn't go long there. It works out and it goes higher, but you can see we weren't done yet. So it's just been a really strong downtrend day, so you got to be super careful. We're working up. We get a close outside, move to a new high, and again, you just don't get a very good signal bar. You do get a lower high. It's moved a long way to consider that a lower high, but this is back inside the channel. I'm sorry, the range, the pink range. And if we'd been going back and forth, I would probably say, yeah, go short right there. But look how many times we bounced at the midline there. 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. So that makes me scared of that trade right there. It's still a possibility, but there's always, because you are still in this channel here, but there's a chance you could get burned there. It runs on down, gets a close outside, bounces off the low, and we're back to the top again. Again, no setup on the. I take that back. There is a possibility of a high or low. It breaks lower and turns up. It's not completely all red, but it's really close. So you might take that on an engulfing bar, but definitely don't wait till it closes up here, because look how many times we've turned down right across there, and it might turn down again. It ends up running up, no signal bar there, turns back down, and we break out the bottom side, and we start creeping up a new trend line here. It's really congested looking. I don't see anything. There is a second entry long here, but that just looks too congested. Notice the new high, first entry, a break above that. Actually, it broke lower and turned up, so it went above that. It was a second entry, but you could still enter there if you had a good setup. But it's we haven't even got back to the support resistance line yet. And you should be at least testing that. And so I just wasn't crazy about that one. EMA still pointing down at that point. Now it quickly goes flat and turns up, but that's because of this big rally up here. But we're just chopping higher, and then suddenly, boom, off it goes. And you get a break, a new high. And that's a second entry short, way away from the EMA. I like that one just because it's a second entry. Now, by the counts, it would be third, but that's not a leg up. That's just sideways. So this is a double bottom or just a new low right here. And so that's one move up, first entry, second move up, second entry. And this broke higher and turned down. You could trade that on the engulfing bar or when it closes, either way. And then you get a slightly low, somewhat lower high here. I think it's moved a little too far. It's not a very good signal bar anyway. And then you get your break. And you get a first entry, second entry. Now this one, I marked it green because it looks like we have a close outside, and we definitely get a close outside here with a new high all in one bar, and you're way away from the EMA, but it's not a clear-cut second entry with a clear close outside. It does have a very nice signal bar, so I marked it green. It's a possibility. It turns out to be a really nice move, but it's not a sure thing. Not looking at it. I mean, to me, it looks like we get a close outside there and there, but it's real close. It's not a convincing one. And sometimes you'll get a close outside and a new high all in one ball on a real tight micro trend channel like that. So, of course, I didn't draw the trend channel down, but there's one here. It comes down, you get a break and a new low on it. Actually, this was the retest, so that's why I didn't draw it. This is a retest of this khaki. And maybe it's not. Maybe I drew that wrong, and this is just one leg down with a break and a new low, and then a new trend up with a possible close. So maybe that is a new trend line. It never hurts to draw them anyway, but usually if they're retests, I don't draw them. But to me, that does look like a move down, a break, a new low, and then move back up. But that's the way I saw it. So anyway, I'm gonna there's not much else we can say about today. I talked about not picking tops and bottoms. I talked about trying not to be early or late, that kind of thing. And so hopefully there were some learning lessons in there. But the big thing is this is a very strong downtrend. Stay with the trend. And here it was a very strong uptrend. Stay with the trend. Don't try to counter trend trade because it's just going to burn you. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.